So my one niece thought this was a cool thing, and she thinks it should go up on the Etsy store. I don't know if I want to put that on the Etsy store, but I will make her one. So she wanted it on a piece of wood. So I had these pieces that I had cut for 45s with the table saw test. There's a hole in the back, but that's fine. And I did the square at the same size as the wood, so with the thought being putting that on the wood. It's a little thick, so I'm going to try and sand down the top and have it slant this way to the thicker spot, so thin to thick. So all the weight's down here, that way it'll hold up a little bit better. I think I'm also going to cut this. I think that shape should work fine for the back of the stand. And then I'm going to tilt that as well, so that the whole thing, instead of sitting at a 90, ends up sitting at an angle like that instead. That doesn't help if you're not. So instead of 90, have it tilt back, because that way it'll be more stable on the stand, whatever the stand is. And then it'll be just something to like to put on a desk. I think that'll work. So we're going to try that. First, I'm cutting out the base. I really like this small bandsaw for these quick cuts. That worked pretty good. And then I'm just marking off approximately how I want the tilt to go on the top. And that worked pretty well. And I'm just using my 12-inch sander and just carefully going, trying to come up towards the line. I didn't go the whole way to the line, but that was good enough. And now I'm using one of my nice carving tools to make cuts where all the letters and various shapes go. I really like this carving tool set. It's a set of Japanese tools, and it's really nice. It's easy on the fingers. They're sharp. They work good. I like it. The hard part's always the round bits. But yeah, I think it came out pretty good. Those are the ones. It was the power grip. And then I just went back through and in pencil went over all the cut lines just so it's easier to see when I'm doing the wood burning. And that worked okay too. And sandpaper is great for erasing pencil on wood. It's always a important bit. And I'm just using that same little diamond round burr in my handle sander, and it works pretty good. Just follow along. It's just a little round ball, so it makes little divots, but it's enough that the wood burning tool stays down in the groove much better. It's still a little bit hard around the cup and the fingers, but well. Small details this is not good for. But then again, wood burning is a pain with what I have for small details too, so. Then just go down through and do all the wood burning for the bits. This is again the fine tip on the wood burner. I'm just using a little sponge it's wet with water to take some of the carbon off, so it cleans and works a little bit better. One problem with using a soldering iron is it does get quite hot, and if my fingers, towards the end I can't have my fingers on like there you see my fingers up on the orange plastic towards the front. Towards the end of the run, I have to keep it back on the rubber part because the plastic is too hot to touch. But it works okay. I'm debating more and more on getting an actual wood burning tool versus just the soldering iron, because the more I do these things, it would be much easier with a tool that one would heat up quicker, but also would work a little bit better. But yeah, this does okay for what I need so far. So I definitely recommend something like this if people are just starting out and want to try. Just if you have a soldering iron, get a good soldering iron with the fine tips, and don't obviously use them for soldering. Keep dedicated tips for wood burning, but it works pretty good. It also helps to rotate the work while you're working on it, because that way you're not struggling to get the angles correct. And those were just fairly light, so I went a little bit darker. And just do a quick sanding of it to clean off the over burn, and then just get everything fairly well sanded because we're going to try gluing it up soon, so it's good to have things sanded so you don't have to try and get the sander down in the little corners and such. And I found with some things like this, just painter's tape pulled tight works great for doing the glue up. You don't need clamps, especially for weird angles like this where it's not going to be intense. But I also recommend if you have a corner, put tape near the edge so any over glue goes on the tape and not all over the wood. Tons of glue came out because I haven't used that one for a while, but the glue is still good. So yeah, see there you can see it's much easier to scrape it off, and plus that way it doesn't stain the wood or I should say it doesn't go into the wood and affect any stain. Well, there I was just cleaning up the glue down in the hole. And here I'm trying to get the angle for the bottom piece, and I figured, all right, we'll just try it based on the angle for the part I tilted on the top. Have that almost straight up and down, and then that would be the approximate angle for the back. And again, it's all just guesswork and approximating, but if you have a pencil line, you can shoot for the pencil line. You don't have to go to it if you decide not to, but that way you have something, have a goal. And yeah, I decided to, since that was a small piece, I decided to do this part of the angle after I glued it up, and that was much easier. That way I had something to hold on to, so my fingers didn't get sanded, because that's never fun. And then here, just cleaning it up again, getting some of the pencil marks and the final sanding bits. And yeah, that worked all good. Got all the bandsaw marks out. It cleaned up real nice. And looks good. And here, if you ever have a joint that's a 45 degree and there's slight gaps, you can take a round tool and run it across the edge, and that will seal it all up like that did. And here I'm going to try and put my name inside the hole, and you can't see it, but I was able to get it, even though that was very small and painful, I was able to get it wood burned in there, and so that way I don't have an extra name badge, I just put it inside the unit. And then we just do some final sanding, and then we should be all ready for finish. And I just use the triple thick polyurethane that I do all the time, and stuff comes out great. I've been really happy with that finish. See, I put 2 coats of that on, and then we're good. All right. This project for my niece is done. This was just a piece of scrap pine I had laying around. Worked really good. It was actually the piece of pine that I did the table saw 45 degree test with. So here's proof that the 45 degree does pretty good if you just do a corner joint. So what I did was I took this down so it had a little bit less weight on the top, and then I added a slant on the base such that when it's sitting, this back slant is around vertical. So you can kind of see there, that's almost vertical. And that gives it a 4.4 degree or 4.4 and a half degree tilt according to that. So that should be fine. That way if it gets bumped, it tries to right itself. Yeah, I think it's going to work pretty good. I don't know that anybody's going to want things like this, but if they do, send me a message on the Etsy store and I'll see about pricing and making one. But this pine has cool grain, so it looks cool. Whoops, except when you drop it on the floor, or almost drop it on the floor. Yeah, that came out really cool. And since there was a knot hole that the knot fell out, I put the little badge down inside there because I thought that was cool. And I don't know that I'm going to put rubber feet on because I'm not sure where she's going to want to put it, so I might just leave it like this, and if she wants rubber feet, she can get rubber feet. If she wants those little felt pads, she can get those to put on it, but it sits good. Should work great on a desk. And it just has the triple thick polyurethane, the Varathane stuff that I use on a lot of the projects. Yeah, very cool. I hope she will like it. I think she will. So yeah, that one's done.